Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. It was another early one, wasn't it, up at the AXA for Arne's slot, ahead of a massive game against Nottingham Forest. This is first versus third. I didn't think a lot of people would be saying that at the start of the season, would it? Liverpool 6 points clear. Technically, some will argue this is their game in hand, wouldn't it? Because they'll be level on games with a lot of them, you want to call them that. So there is so much to talk about. I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a dark and dreary. It's not as cold, Edinburgh. It's just one of them when it's like you can have the lights on almost at 10:30 in the morning, which is depressing in a way. But who gives up about that? Because it is all about Liverpool. It's all about the normal stuff, people. What Arne Slot was asked, what he said, the clues from the last game. And I think there's a few you can deduce from the Accrington one as well. It's important to say, looking at the threats that Forest will bring and anything else that's relevant. And then as normal, I will give my starting lineup, predicted score and scorers. It's a bit of a nervous one, so to speak. It's a big week, and the result, I think, will define how this week goes a lot for us. But let's get into it straight away. What was Arne Slot asked? What did he answer? So the first question was asked by Vinny O'Connor at Sky was around team news. We liked this, by the way. He said, when he was asked about Gomez specifically, yeah, he's quite far away. He's definitely not training with the team yet. And Darwin is suspended. So those are the two we'll miss tomorrow. Now, someone's probably going to be saying, hold on, why is that good news? The reason that is good news, there was quite a few suggestions, and I'll be honest, quite a few of us had it at Anfield Index, that Ibu was in the lineup for Accrington, then wasn't all of a sudden. So there's questions then. Is it illness? Is it injury? You know, what's gone on there? And people will speculate on this. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. Arne Slot has confirmed that only Gomez and a suspended Nunes will miss this game. So essentially, Liverpool can name a full strength team for this one. So very happy about that. And especially when you look at others and you think of Arsenal especially, don't you? All their injuries like Saka, Ranieri, and then Jesus goes off last night as well. So yeah, to have those available is massive for us. He's then asked about, is this decisive moment in the season because of the games, how far away you are? And it's obviously referencing what he said about the table before. He said, I've always said the table best halfway through the season, and that moment is here. If Forest is up there with us and all the others, they're definitely in a team that's in competition with us and deserve to be treated like this. It will be a difficult challenge tomorrow. It most certainly will be a difficult challenge tomorrow. Like, let's not mince any words at all. If we look at the table that's popped up on the screen there, I mean, like us, they've only conceded 19 goals. They actually, in their last 5, are in better form than us as well. As you can see, they've won 5 on the spin. And more importantly, if you look at the 5 they've won on the spin, they are not giving up any goals. In fact, to be honest, only shipped 1 goal in their last 5 games. You've got to give Forest full respect on this. This will not be easy at all. Goal ratio saying that, yeah, every game is important if you want to win. No doubts about it at all. Goal ratio, I completely agree with that. And you've heard Liverpool players on a slot talk about game at a time, which is absolutely the right thing to say. However, this feels massive, doesn't it? This feels like it could break the spirit of rivals somewhat as well. So it is a huge game. I don't think you can undersell that. And that was naturally a bit of the tone, if you want, with the questions that were coming through. Because Arne Slot was then asked, do you owe them one based on what happened? And he said it showed how good of a team they were leading up to that game because they'd drawn 2 and won 1. In general, whenever Liverpool loses a home game, people don't expect it. And I also saw the stat that day that Virgil had played 100 home games for Liverpool and only lost 1. So to lose that one was very hard for me to take. Now looking back and seeing where they are, it's not been such a shock result as it's been then. They had a good game plan. They changed the wingers they normally played and they brought them on in the end, and that made the difference. Though I expect their wingers who've done so well to be in the starting 11 tomorrow. I don't think there's any doubt of how much Arne Slot has thought about this Nottingham Forest game since that defeat. Even now, you feel it, the one that still lives in his memory. There's still the one that just wakes him up in a cold sweat where Mrs. Slot wonders, like, what's wrong? What's going on? You can tell there's probably a large obsession with this one. And he talked a little bit more about their tactics, which were interesting as well. One good question that I like that to pull from there was about the injuries, how you've managed that well and kept squad availability. How did he answer this one? He said, but yeah, that is also at this moment. In 2 weeks or 2 months, things can be totally different. It's definitely helpful, though, for every manager to have all your players available. That's what we almost have, and that's a positive thing at the moment as we play so many games, just because we have things like a League Cup and an FA Cup to be played in as well. You can't compare all situations together. Some squads have teams that are bigger than us, some teams don't, but the teams we're in competition with, would love to have all their players ideally available. Let's hope almost all of them, like we have now, can continue going like this. That was a good analysis for me, and you can tell who he's referring to at the same time as well. Let's be completely honest. Chelsea, they've got a ginormous squad. We know that. I mean, there's players just not wanted on loan, etc. So there's that factor. Arsenal, they'd love to have more players available. It is not by chance, not for 1 second. And the shout out obviously has to go to Ruben Peters, the S&C department, the medical side, everyone involved in that of player availability. Now, I think people confuse the two because I know people are saying at the moment that the likes of Grav are just starting to look a little bit tired. And there's no doubt about that. It does seem, actually, I'm saying that it seems, it is a fact that we have multiple players on course to break their record minutes per season. So there is a slight concern on that. I get that. Will they sort of last the pace? There's the PTSD almost from last season a little bit, is there? But at the same time, you do have to praise Slot, Peters and all the rest for the availability. And touch wood, as I'm doing, fingers crossed, that does continue more than ever. Now, he was also asked about the youngsters and how good that was for Saturday. And it was a short answer, but I liked it. He said, it's very important for every club, but especially this club. It's always brought talent through the ranks. And it's nice to see a few youngsters having impact in our training sessions, but also Jadon scoring, Rio having a good game, with Trent then assisting Federico for the goal. It's nice as it gives good energy in the building if academy players train with us and do well. I like that phrase, good energy in the building. And it gives a good energy to the fan base as well, doesn't it? There's a lot of us thinking, and there's a long way to go for a lot of these players. Let's say that in context, first of all. And you cannot get uber carried away about a victory over Accrington Stanley, with the greatest respect, in League Two in the third round of the FA Cup at home. But Jadon Danns knows where that goal is, doesn't he? Jadon Danns just seems to have an instinct, doesn't it? A composure, almost a swagger in the best possible way at the right time. Rio Ngamoa, the stardust in them feet, he finds it very easy just to sort of slide, move back and forth, isn't it? And just beat a player almost with ease, I would say. So he's got quality. Young Trey Ione, it obviously came on late. He didn't get too much of a mention. But as we've seen in the Carabao quarter-final, there is something special about that kid. When that kid is on the field, not for 1 second is he playing like a 17-year-old. Liverpool have some little gems, don't they, at the moment? Let's just hope they get polished up and we see more of them in the future. But I like the way you phrased that, Arne Slot. There is good energy in the building over these guys. Now, I said he's obsessed about Nottingham Forest. He got asked about the low block, and rather than me tell you what he said, let's have a listen.
Earlier on in the season, that the formation that you most like to play against was a low block, low defensive block, because you will have more possession. Nottingham Forest this season have got that system almost off to a fine art, as they showed at Anfield and in games since then. And why do you think they've been able to implement that in such a successful fashion? I know they have picked up the pace in the wide areas with the fullbacks as well as the wingers, and very clever in midfield. It is going to be a difficult threat for you.
Yeah, definitely is. I think what every manager tries to do is find the game plan or the playing style that suits the players best, and I think that is what the manager of Nottingham, Nuno, did very well. So the playing style they have suits them really good. So they have a hard-working team. So without the ball, they work really hard. Chris Wood is a great example of that. But he's also a player that can hold the ball. And they have, like you said, very fast wingers and players on the midfield that can bring these wingers in promising positions. Mostly in counter-attacks, but they are not only counter-attacks. That's definitely not true. They've scored and been a threat by counter-attacks a lot, but they can also bring the ball if the ball is on the floor. So they hardly take the risk of build-up from the goalkeeper, but if they bring the ball to the floor, then you can see the quality they also have when they want to play. So, I think Nuno did a great job in implementing a style of play that suits the players very good, very well.
I like the detail in that answer as well. He kind of shows a lot of how much he watches the other team and how much of a tactical genius, really, Arne Slot is. I think he summarises Forest very well. They don't take many risks, do they? There's a reason why they've only shipped 19 goals this season. They do employ a low block. I think he phrased this well at the same time. They do score a lot of their goals on the counter-attack. That's just a fact. They do largely tend to play counter-attack football. That's not the only type of football they play, but they very much, if you think of that back line with Milinkovic, who's been brilliant for them, he does a lot of the dirty work. Murillo, because he's not as big in the air, but probably better on the ball. You've got a few cloggers in midfield at times, like Yates, etc., but there's real quality punctuated with it, isn't it? Especially as you mentioned there, people in the midfield who can get that ball to the wingers, like Morgan, Gibbs-White, Chris Wood. The wingers can play off them, like Alanga, Hudson-Odoi. I like the way sort of, not dissected, maybe that's too strong, but gave you a real insight into how he's thought about Nottingham Forest. You're more than confident as ever that Arne Slot has a solid game plan for them. And the final few things to say was asked about Diogo Jota and Jota and Endo. So he's asked about, does Jota have a special injury program now he's back to keep him fit, etc., etc. He said, I think for all of them, they have 80% the same, and then 20%, the last 20% is individual work in the gym. So it's not only for him, we have a special program. We try to have a special program for all squad players. He's like others, someone I like to have in my squad and available. When it comes to building up his match fitness, you also saw it went from 30 minutes to a bit more, then a bit more, and now he's ready to play 90. And that's a good thing, as we have so many games to play, and hopefully he stays like this. It's been interesting with Diogo Jota because we've been desperate for him to come back. And even when he has returned, there's been not frustration, but there's been that sense of he's not playing much. And it seems quite clear Arne Slot wants to get his players fully up to speed before he will introduce them into the 90. And we've seen that slowly with Jota, haven't we, from the subs appearance. And interestingly enough, he plays the full game, doesn't he, against Accrington, which, for my eyes, and I'm going a bit early on this, I think it shows you would be surprised if he starts against Nottingham Forest. Just my hunch, but we'll talk about the lineup very shortly. And this one to finish on, I really like as well. Endo. He said, or he was asked about Endo's attitude and how good it is. And he said, yeah, that is clear. I asked Harvey to come into the room before we played the game against Accrington, as Harvey wants to get his chance to play that number 10 position. And because of the players, we didn't have the available ones, so we had to play from the right. For Jota, it's the same, but I didn't invite him in because wherever you play, I know he'll say to me, I'll do my best. Wherever you play me. So it's 5 minutes before the end, he comes in and he gives everything. That might be normal for fans to hear, but it's not as normal in football. And I've seen players that come in before the end showing different things. So he's an important part of our team. And if you're thinking any reference back to that Spurs semi-final, as I didn't want to bring Ibu in after United, and after 20 minutes in that game, we had to make a substitution. He did really well, Jota, and maybe it was telling that after we took him off, we conceded. I like a little bit of Endo praise, I really do, because he hasn't got hardly any minutes. However, it's important to say this. Every time Endo has come in, he's done well. Whether it's for 5 minutes, whether it's for, from the start, in Carabao Cup quarter-finals, did well in the semi-final, I thought. Probably he's right. It was telling that he came off and Ibu's not fully fit. That plays a part in the Bergvall winner, doesn't it? This game on Saturday, he was man of the match at the same time. So I just think, Endo, it seems pretty clear there's not a chance he's going anywhere now in January. A month or a bit ago, people would have looked and gone, is his future get another midfielder in? But, I mean, it's not at midfield. I know someone's going to say that. I understand that completely. But with Joe Gomez injured, he could play an important part at the same time. So, yeah, a lot to like with Endo, and it's nice to see him getting a few flowers there. But that was the main gist of the press conference for you people. And if we look back like we always do, I don't know it. What do you mean lessons from Accrington? We always look back at the previous game. There's always certain things you can take. And for me, it's a tale of three forwards. It's a tale of Chiesa, Nunes, and Diogo Jota. So that's the first thing I would call out. Got an unfortunate pause on his face there. So let's have a listen to what Diogo Jota said after this game.
I hope he enjoyed it and he only got better.
He trains a lot with the first team, doesn't he? To do that at the age of 17 is a big day, though.
Yeah, it's a special day for him. Like I said, he's been with us, but competing is always a bit different, especially here with the full crowd, and obviously remarkable moment for him, and he'll remember forever.
Federico getting his goal as well. He tried and tried again, hit the post, and obviously scored at the end. It looked like a popular goal, that as well. Everybody was around him when he scored it.
Yeah, everyone is very happy for him. Obviously, he didn't have much game time since he arrived, but we can see every time he's on the pitch, he looks dangerous. He can score, and luckily for him and for us, he did that today. And another one to build up. My opinion.
Yeah, so it really is a tale of three forwards. I mean, Diogo Jota scored his goal, didn't he? He likes them in the cup, a typical Jota-style finish, which is great. That puts him for this. And if we can just keep him fit, praise be to Jesus and all that, he can be such an important player for us. Right? You know that. He is something a bit different to what a lot of teams have. And also, there's a nice personal moment for him when he has the captain's armband. And you forget he is 28. He is one of the senior forwards, probably after Mo Salah. You would argue the next senior forward. So he is such an important player. Chiesa. Hardly seen him. Almost been a bit like the Kaiser Soze of Liverpool recently. But when we see him, he has an impact, doesn't he? I mean, it was a great goal. Really good goal, wasn't it? It was a proper golazzo, as they say. Strike in off the post, the bottom corner. And at the same time, he'd hit the post before with a few saved. He'd looked dangerous. And even that Carabao Cup quarter against Southampton that 1 or 2 cleared off the line as well. He looks a threat. I think the thing you can take from those two is if you keep them fit, and it's a big if, and it's a touch wood, and it's praying and everything like that, I do believe they can have an impact. Jota on a far more senior level, no doubts about that. But even as relief for Mo Salah at times, even as an option possibly from the bench, something different, I think he can have a real impact. So there's positives there for 2. I said it was a tale of 3, and the tale just doesn't get any better for Darwin Núñez, does it? It really doesn't. It's a horrible miss. It's a nice assist, but it's a horrible miss. He just looks beaten a little bit is the word I would use. And Robbie Fowler was quite honest about him, saying he doesn't look like a Liverpool player, and people jumped on him that way. He's just being honest about the sample size, what we've seen. Now, if Darwin does stay until the end of this season, and there is a lot of rumours, isn't there, about whether he'll go, Saudi interest, etc., he can still play a part. But throw your comments in. It'll be interesting to see. Is Darwin now the 6th choice forward? Has Chiesa moved up the rankings in that? People will say that's uber harsh. Just me posing the question there realistically more than anything else. But if everyone is fit, and I know that's a big if, you've got some debates who you want on the left. The middle, probably Jota most people would want. People will like largely what Diaz has done at times there, but more of an option. Even in the middle, as we've seen him on the few occasions, be an interesting one to think about. The only other one really to talk about is, as we mentioned, the youngsters. There is a talented bunch. Now, the one I really want to call out a little bit separately from the rest is Jayden Danns, because Jayden Danns looks lively. He gets another goal. I mean, that's 3 senior goals already, isn't he? All in the FA Cup, the 2 at Southampton, the one against Accrington. And I can see people already clamouring for this kid, saying he's got to get more first team minutes. You know, he's better option than Núñez and all this. I think Jayden Danns is a real talent. But there's 2 things to this for me. Number 1, the sample size is minute. And yes, first team football, I think at somewhere like a championship club, just to play more men's football. I mean, you saw his attitude after. He's humble, he's working hard. I do think the next step for him is to get first team football. There's absolutely nothing he's going to get more from under 21 rather than fitness. He's above that level. You want him to take the next step. I just don't think at the moment 6 senior forwards in front of him. And I know we've talked about if you believe in more in him than Núñez, etc., but I don't think it's there for him at the moment. Plus, let him go somewhere where he can make a few mistakes as well, learn his trade, as they say. So I would like to see Jayden Danns get a loan. No 2 ways about it. But yeah, that was the sort of Accrington lessons. And Forest, as we've talked about their threats, I mean, just in case you missed it, they have shipped 1 goal in their last 5. They don't score that many, 29, but they really don't concede many. If you look, they're with us and Arsenal as the best defences in the Premier League. When you look at their squad as well, now normally we talk about threats. Milinkovic, he will be a threat from set pieces, 9 clean sheets. He will be difficult. He is one to keep an eye on at set pieces. Morgan Gibbs-White, fabulous player. You can see and tell why Liverpool have been linked and have an interest in him. 7 goal contributions in 16 games, 6 big chances created. Really athletic, but good on the ball. Some England international now, some refinement needed to his game. I wouldn't mind seeing that at us, I have to be honest there. So, yeah, a real talent. Hopefully he drops a stinker in this one. The wingers we know about, but Chris Wood in the form of his life, isn't he? I mean, that's insane. 20 appearances, 12 goals in the Premier League. And to be fair to him, different types of goal. He's not just a heading merchant or anything like that. Really different types of goal from Chris Wood as well. So when we talk about Nottingham Forest, this will be an incredibly difficult game tomorrow night. 6 points behind. I mean, they are desperate to do the big upset. And the result, people will talk about performance, but it's result ultimately that will determine your mood for the week ahead. Which brings us then to the final bit, isn't it, ladies and gents, around what do I think the lineup, score and scorers will be. Now, a lot of players were rested. Great. They'll play. Alisson, VVD, Canate, nothing wrong with him. Robbo, I think it will be Trent. I think it was telling that Trent got taken off after 60 minutes. I think a lot of people read Saturday as, oh, it's Trent. Is he now the second choice? Is Bradley? No. Arne Slot said afterwards that he couldn't risk Conor Bradley because of the travel home, the worry about hamstring and just coming back. So Trent was the only available option. He played 60. So Trent is going to start this one. In the midfield, it's going to be Gravenberch at Mac. Didn't play a single minute. Mac was just trying to keep warm on the bench, wasn't he? The final midfield spot. Now, I'm going to be honest because I don't want to be disrespectful to Curtis Jones. I don't think he's been on top form the last few games. I really want to see Dominic Szoboszlai start this one. I think he is so important to this system for Liverpool. He really is, especially away from home, pressing, and he looked lively in the sort of 60 minutes or so we had on Saturday, didn't it? It felt like a nice tune-up. Curtis then from the bench would be it from me. Throw in your comments, be honest about how you see it, but I am really keen to see Szoboszlai. Now, I would have also been keen personally to see Diogo Jota start this one. When we did Stat Me Up, me and Barts, we talked and looked at they don't give up many shots and many chances, and you might only get one or two. And probably Diogo Jota is naturally a player that you'd like them to fall to. However, he plays the full 90 minutes in this, doesn't he? Which makes me think it's Gakpo on the left, Diaz as almost a false nine to combat Forest and how they'll sort of flood the midfield, and Mo Salah on the right. That is the lineup I am going for in this one. I think it's going to be super tough. I think it's going to be super difficult. However, rightly or wrongly, I do think we win this. I do think we win this. And I know they've only conceded one goal in their last 5 games, but I believe it's 2-1 and Mo Salah is on the score sheet. It was a funny one here last season, wasn't it? That 1-0 very late Nunes header. Darwin suspended, so he obviously can't be involved at all. But yeah, 2-1 for me. Salah on the score sheet. And there's still real options for the bench with Nunes suspended. If it is that lineup, Jones, Chiesa, Jota. So we'll always be in it. But it really is 3 levels to this. A loss is a disaster. It's really bad and it brings other teams into it. It brings heart to other teams. A draw isn't bad because it's a 7-point gap over Arsenal and Forest. A win's erotic. Highly erotic. I mean, to be 9 points clear, level on games with Arsenal, like some chat, it just breaks the spirit, I would say, of everyone around us. I mean that sincerely. I think it's big. If we can go 9 points clear and win, it is red panty moment, isn't it? No two ways about it. We will see, though. We'll see what it brings. We'll see what happens. Tuesday night, tomorrow, Liverpool will play Nottingham Forest away. I think it's on BT if you're in the UK. Obviously, wherever you are in the rest of the world, it will be what it will be. But for another time, on Monday, the 13th of January, that was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.